After coming back from my first semester of college, and being both physically and emotionally exhausted from the ordeal, I was ready to punish myself some more by working on my next animation starring an alcoholic in a fancy suit. However, that's going to be delayed a bit by this video, as it's come to my attention that net neutrality is on its last legs, and probably will be voted off by December 14th if we don't act accordingly. And since John Oliver is on hiatus, I'm going to educate those who are unaware of this issue, detailing net neutrality and the people who want it gone. So let's get started then.
To be free, we must be all for one.
Now, while this is going to be completely obvious to some, as we did the exact song and dance routine about this issue way back in 2014, and plenty of others did a much better job describing it than I probably can, it's still important to go over what net neutrality is and what net neutrality is not. Net neutrality is the principle that all data on the net should be treated equally by the internet service providers, and was placed into effect in 2015. Or, in other words, the ISPs could no longer throttle the internet and discriminate against sites they don't like. Once you paid your monthly toll to go online, you can visit any site you want with no added fees. What net neutrality is not, however, is the government micromanaging the internet. It's a series of regulations, yes, but as stated before, it is used to prevent ISPs from controlling the internet, as there aren't as many ISPs to really support the free market approach, and probably end up creating a monopoly as a result. Without net neutrality, ISPs would have an easier time dividing up the internet into separate cable packages, like how they did in Portugal. Now, while I know I probably left out something important, for the sake of brevity, I'm going to have to move on to the next section, but I advise you to do your own research on this topic, as it is very important. Now, with this in place, who wants it gone exactly?
We're flashing white teeth, and we're thinking black thoughts.
Now, while I hate to get political on this channel, mostly, it is important to detail just how we got into this situation and explain it in more detail for the uninformed. But for that, we're going to have to talk about the Trump administration, which is much less of a bag of worms, but rather a bag of metaphorical political nukes. After the Trump administration took office in 2016, President Donald J. Trump promoted Republican Ajit Pai as chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, who was originally nominated by Barack Obama in 2011. Since Pai was originally a Verizon lawyer, and has a smile that not even a mother could love, it should come to no one's surprise that he wanted less regulations on the FCC, and that includes net neutrality. Pai argues that net neutrality stifles competition and causes business investment to go down.
My concern is with the particular regulations that the FCC adopted 2 years ago. By imposing those heavy-handed economic regulations, we could end up disincentivizing companies from wanting to build out internet access to a lot of parts of the country. That, I think, is something that nobody would benefit from.
But on the contrary, businesses have been largely unaffected by net neutrality. So what Pai is really trying to say is, net neutrality has been keeping us from investing in new, exciting opportunities for us to take more money from our customers and taint the internet, as Undertow tainted its own ending. Except this time, you won't have a red-headed stepchild to blame it on. But I know what you're about to say. Ian, you heartless Quentin, how could you possibly hate someone who's trying to lessen the government's grasp on the internet? Don't you know that he stated that all the claims that the ISPs regulate the internet are just hyperbolic statements? Which I, of course, will respond, you actually trust a politician? Because to my knowledge, this has happened before without net neutrality. Comcast slowed BitTorrent traffic on its network on September 1st, 2007. And not only that, but Comcast was negotiating with Netflix in 2014. And according to the graph by the Washington Post, Netflix's download speed decreased immensely during that period of negotiation, and returned to normal after Netflix agreed to Comcast's demands. And to make matters worse, despite an overwhelming support for net neutrality during a public comment for the bill last May, the FCC started rolling back some of the protections for net neutrality. So, things are looking a tad grim, to say the least. But the good news is, we're not going down without a fight. Which leads us to our final section.
But now these days are gone, I'm not so self-assured. Now I find I've changed my mind and open up the doors.
One of the members of the FCC, Jessica Rosenworcel, wrote an article titled, "I'm on the FCC, please stop us from killing net neutrality," after realizing that the FCC would not listen to public opinion. The article stated that everyone should, and I quote, make a ruckus. And this is exactly what the internet has done. According to BetterForTheNet.com, there has been over 700,000 calls regarding net neutrality, as well as a multitude of internet personalities calling their support. But I highly recommend that after you do some research regarding the topic, to visit these sites in order to voice your support for net neutrality. Now, it has come to my attention that Ajit Pai has received a fair amount of harassment regarding this issue. And even though I condemn that type of behavior, you have to remember that this is a guy that ignored public opinion regarding the topic. He repeatedly disregarded the overwhelming amount of negative feedback on his bill and the consequences that it could bring. And just recently, he started to rage raw on social media for the harassment he has received. And while he has every right to complain on the threats made to him and his family, in the end, He really just brought this on himself. Or to put it in layman's terms,
He had it coming.